Hello everybody and welcome back to part 2 where I'm sharing a soul plan perspective of white supremacy. So let's get started. As with the last video that I shared with you around the soul plan for white privilege, this does come with a trigger warning. This may bring up some uncomfortable feelings for you. Again, I invite you to just sit with that for a moment, perhaps journal on it, and recognize this isn't specifically about you, and also take some deep breaths, come into your heart space, and then come back to the video when you feel ready. So let's begin by looking at the foundations for white supremacy. So we actually have the foundations as the 13-4, and what's really interesting here is, similarly to white privilege, this is an energy of the Divine Mother, the 13. This is a very loving, nurturing energy. So in a way, it's almost a surprise to see this energy here. And I think that's because the opposite side of this energy is that it can be very detached, very cold, very harsh. Literally the complete opposite of nurturing, and that's very much what white supremacy is. It is the opposite of nurturing. This tends to be quite a mild energy when it's in a space of a foundation or a challenge, and it's more about creating trust and expressing the divine feminine and leading from your heart. So this very much tells me that perhaps the system of white supremacy is not leading from its heart. It is not connecting with that divine mother aspect. It is not nurturing. It is not loving, and it's not healing. It's not what we should be doing. I just want to say it feels wrong. That's it. That's the sense I'm getting looking at this energy. The other side of this is the energy of the 4, and this is the energy of fertility and abundance. And what's really interesting about this energy is it's actually about duplicating and replicating things, hence the geometric cups represented in the symbol here. It's very much about taking something and replicating it. So it's able to take information and replicate it almost word for word, and therefore it's a highly intelligent energy. And unfortunately that does mean that the foundation of white supremacy is replicating and duplicating itself. I'm seeing almost, I'm trying to think, there's like a GIF or a meme that I've seen where it's like one thing dropping into another, creating another. It's sort of like that, and essentially it's been perpetuated. That's the simplest way I can express it. White supremacy has a foundation that allows it to perpetuate itself, which is obviously something we need to dismantle and release and change it to be a perpetuation of love and unity. Again, as I've said before, this is going to take some time. The 4 is also connected to the polarity of fertility and infertility. So actually, unfortunately, this tells me that white supremacy has been very fertile, and that means it's reproduced itself, it's duplicated itself quite successfully, unfortunately. But at the same time, there's this quality of the infertility and it being very barren. You know, the other half of this, I get this sense of this shadow actually. It's almost like two sides of the same coin. If you look at one side, it looks all clean and shiny like a new penny, but if you turn it to the side, there's the ugly truth, and it's actually quite dirty, and it really needs a lot of work to shine it up to be loving. And it has the potential to be this really nurturing, loving space, but it can't be because it's only focused on white people. And how can I put this any better way than white superiority and white supremacy are just not the way to create unity and love within society and within the world as a whole. Then we move to the abilities of white supremacy, and looking at that we have the 10-1. And the 10 is actually a really high vibrational healing energy. However, in a sense of white supremacy and it being a negative aspect, this energy can be very alienating. It's a perfectionist energy, and I think that's almost, I feel like linking to the idea of white superiority, and white people are superior. You know, you must be perfect in order to fit into white supremacy. That's what I'm hearing. You must be perfect to fit into white supremacy. If you're not, then you're alienated, you're pushed aside. And the 10 can be very critical, and it can be self-critical, but it also can be very critical towards other people. And again, That's another aspect of racism, being very critical in a very demeaning way towards another race, even though we all are one race of humanity. So this energy is almost creating the separation, and that leads me to the one. The energy of the one is the energy of unity. So there's huge potential for this to be a really healing, loving vibration, but unfortunately, because it's got white as the title, it just cannot be, because it's only taking one race into consideration. So the one being the energy of unity, well, this tells me that it's all about separation. It's all about feeling separate and creating and perpetuating separation. Again, looking at the foundations with that 4, perpetuating this harsh environment that leads to more separation. And then in the success, again, this is something that is working towards. So this is again the 4. It's shown up again. So it's almost like this cycle is just continuing itself. And I feel like it's kind of almost got carried away with itself. Does that make sense? It feels as though it's spiraled out of control. That's the word I'm looking for. This has spiraled out of control and created so much separation, so much disconnection between us, and alienated Black people completely, that this isn't healthy in the slightest. And dismantling it is really, really vital, important work that we need to be doing, and utilizing our white privilege to help with that. And the 4 is also all about trust. It's about trusting other people, and it's about trusting the cycles of life. And unfortunately, you cannot trust other people when one race sees itself as superior, or one race creates a system within society to make it supreme and superior to the others. That's not going to happen. We need to be able to create trust within one another, and one way that we can do that is by dismantling white supremacy, dismantling the systematic racism in the world and within each of our societies and within us. Because when we do that, that's when we can come into the divine loving aspect. That's when we can embody the nurturing. That's when we can come into the space of unity and healing. And that's when we can create a fertile space that perpetuates a new cycle and a new way of being. Thank you so much for watching this and being open and receptive to this. And I look forward to seeing you in next week's video.